Hello and welcome to Patient Power. I'm Andrew Shore. We're on location in Milan, Italy at the annual meeting of the European Hematology Association, where there are experts from around Europe and around the world gathered. One important topic they're discussing is the latest in chronic lymphocytic leukemia, or CLL, and a world expert is Dr. John Gribben. He sat down with us to give us his perspective on the latest news.
So what's new in CLL at ASCO and EHA that we've heard this year? Well, it's more explosions in terms of new drugs available in CLL, which is of course very good news for our patients. What I think most of us find very exciting about CLL is that the new compounds that we're been hearing about that are going further into clinical development are all based upon an understanding of the biology of the disease. Therefore, we've got therapies that really target the disease, and we can start to think about the ways in which we may be able to put those together. So what are those compounds? So obviously a lot of excitement about Ibrutibib, Idelalisib and ABT-199, targeting different pathways that are important within the CLL. For Ibrutibib, of course, well, the drug's already approved for refractory CLL in the US, with EMEA approval expected in the very near future. What's been presented at these meetings are the results of the RESONATE trial, which is a randomized trial, and the first randomized trial that we've had with Ibrutibib, that compared Ibrutibib at a dose of 420 milligrams a day taken as a tablet versus ofatumumab, an anti-CD20 monoclonal antibody. Unlike some of the other studies that have had other comparators, here the drug was compared to an antibody which of course is approved for the use of relapsed and refractory CLL. Both at ASCO and at EHA, in parallel with the paper just appearing online in the New England Journal, means that we've got access to the whole clinical data on that trial, demonstrating very excitingly that the overall response rate was very high, and the progression-free survival very significantly improved for patients on Ibrutibib compared to those on ofatumumab. The other thing we've got from that study, of course, is that there have been some questions about, Ibrutibib looked as if it had a very good safety profile, but there were some questions in terms of what happens to relapsed and refractory CLL patients. And by having a comparative arm, we can see that many of the potential side effects were probably more related to the disease population rather than to be anything to do with the drug, because we're really not seeing very much in the way of a toxicity signal. We've also seen updates on the data on Idelalisib. Again here, a combination study of Idelalisib plus rituximab versus rituximab monotherapy. That study came in for some criticism in terms of what the comparative arm was about just being rituximab. We're seeing here at the meeting, Steve Coutre is presenting an update on the data recently published in the New England Journal, showing that on further follow-up, the progression-free survival advantages are remaining. And what we're also interested to see, because on neither the Ibrutibib nor the Idelalisib do we have very long-term follow-up yet, for us to be able to say what happens to patients who are on the drug for a longer period of time. What we've heard here at this meeting is that on the second interim analysis, we're not seeing any different toxicity signal, but still seeing ongoing responses. And then the last compound we find very interesting, ABT-199, which targets a different pathway, targets the BCL2 pathway. And what we've seen here is an update of the ABT-199 data alone, presented by John Seymour, but also the first look at the combination of ABT-199 in combination with obinutuzumab or GA101. What's exciting there is that we are looking as if we are seeing patients having very deep responses and even MRD negative responses with ABT and GA101. Now, why is that important? Well, that means there's a possibility we may be able to stop that therapy and it be defined. The huge problem we're going to face, probably particularly in Europe, is that with both Ibrutibib and Idelalisib, patients have to remain on those therapies very long term. The agents are very expensive, and an indefinite treatment of these very expensive drugs is going to be very difficult for the managed healthcare systems in Europe to cope with. So what we're looking for and what we may be seeing with ABT-199 is that you'll be able to use these types of therapies that are very easy for the patients to tolerate, but for a defined period of time and therefore a defined cost per patient. That's what we're all waiting to see the follow-up on.
Thanks to Dr. John Gribben for sitting down with us and giving us the latest. Remember to be signed up for alerts on our website so you'll know whenever we post something new. I'm Andrew Shore. Remember, knowledge can be the best medicine of all.